Hey guys, what is up and welcome to another Season 4 preview video. In this one, I will be talking about the new support changes that are coming in and mainly talking about what the new items look like and how the general role of supports, especially during the laning phase, will look like. There are 3 different paths that a support can choose in order to determine what kind of items they want to buy and what kind of stats it will give them and what kind of assistance to the ADC and the rest of the team it will offer. Let's take a quick look at the 3 paths right now. As I'm sure you can see the image on the very right of your screen right now, those are the 3 different paths. One of course being blue, one somewhat orange or gold, and the other one's kind of green or red. There are distinct differences between all 3 paths and each of them offers something unique to itself. What Riot did was they removed a lot of other items such as Kage's Pick, Shurelia's Philosopher's Stone, and all of that stuff, and they combined them all into these items for the effects. As you can see, there obviously are 3 different stages of each item. The first one, of course, is being the cheapest one that gives you the basic effects. The second tier of all 3 items gives you the same effects as the first one, just slightly better. However, once you get to the 3rd tier, this is when you get a whole new ability on all 3 of the items, which I will cover with you guys in just a bit. So let's first take a look at the blue path. Taking a look at the first tier of the blue path, this is the one that replaced the similarities of Kage's Pick. As you can see, it gives you 10 ability power, mana regen, and it gives you gold per 10. The passive gives you 4 gold every time you damage an enemy champion once every 10 seconds. If you kill a minion, this ability auto procs a 10-second cooldown and you have to wait for it to finish. I think this was done to prevent people like AP middles from getting this item, since they can just auto attack for the harass, get gold from it, and still CS. The tier 2 version of this is called Frostfang. Like I said, pretty much the same thing, just slightly better stats. So 20 AP, 7 mana, 4 gold per 10, and this time it gives you 8 gold every time you damage an enemy champion. And finally, the tier 3 version. Some of the stats are better, such as 50 AP and 10 mana, but the gold is still the same, and same with the passive, it is still 8 gold. However, you can see it has a new active effect now. This one targets an enemy champion, and that champion and all nearby enemy champions around them take 50 magic damage and reduces their movement speed by 50% for 2 seconds. Personally, I think this is the worst of the 3, but let's get into the other 2 to show why I think this. First, let's take a look at how these items actually look like. So this is a tier 1. When I auto attack Soraka, as you can see, it says I get 4 gold. Now let's take a look at this item in its tier 3 stage. As you can see, as I use it on the Soraka, herself and all the minions beside her get slowed, and you can see a big snowflake icon right under them. Taking a look at the orange path, this is the one that replaced the similarities of Philo Stone. As you can see, it gives you 5 health and 3 mana regen per 5 seconds. This has a very useful passive for support when laning with your ADC. Being near a minion without dealing the killing blow will grant you 2 gold. The tier 2 version of this, Nomad's Medallion, is pretty much the same thing. It gives you more mana regen and HP regen, but it also gives you 2 gold per 10. On top of this, the passive is doubled. Now it gives you 4 gold for a minion that you do not deal the killing blow on that dies nearby. And finally, the tier 3 Talisman of Ascension. This one now also gives you 20% cooldown reduction on top of slightly increased stats for HP and mana regen. The passive is the same thing, 4 gold. However, the new active is very similar to the Shurelia's, where it gives you and your nearby allies 40% move speed for 3 seconds. As you can see, the stats offered by this one seem to be a lot more useful for support, on top of the passive just being so much better than the blue path. Taking a look at this item in action in tier 1, as you can see, as the Sivir is killing the minions, I also get 2 gold for it. And now the same item, but in tier 3, the Shurelya effect is applied when you activate this item. Yourself and allied champions get increased movement speed. And now taking a look at the last path, the green one. This one seems to borrow the idea from Locket of Iron Solari. Looking at the stats, you can see it gives you 50 HP regen and also 6 HP regen per 5 seconds. Probably something a melee support would want. The passive of this ability is that your auto attacks have an execute ability for minions that will kill a minion that's around 200 HP. When you do this, your nearby ally will get healed for 2% of your maximum HP, and it will also give him the minion gold that you got from killing it plus 5 gold. You can only have 2 charges of this at a time while you are at tier 1, and each charge will take 30 seconds to refresh. Taking a look at the tier 2 version of this, you can see the HP and the HP regen is increased quite significantly. Also, the passive will give your allied champion 10 bonus gold instead of 5, and you can also have 4 charges max instead of 2. And finally, tier 3 Face of the Mountain. This one now gives 375 HP on top of 25 HP regen per 5 seconds. They also threw in 10% CDR onto this item. The passive is exactly the same as before, but now it has a completely new active, just like the other 2 examples. This one consumes 20% of your current HP, which ends up casting a shield on your ally, which the shield is 10% of your max HP for 4 seconds. after 4 seconds, the shield will explode and deal 10% of your max HP as magic damage. Keep in mind though, only the first part with the 20% is actually using your HP to cast. Everything else is just scaling off of your HP in terms of what damage it will do and how strong the shield is. Taking a look at the tier 1 version of this item, as I kill this minion, you can see a bundle of gold heading over to the server. And now the tier 3 version, the shield, as you can see, I put it on server, lost a bit of HP, you can see a countdown on top of her, and then it explodes and deals damage AoE. And the last thing I want to mention before I end this video off is general support modifications that Riot is doing in Season 4. They're doing something similar across all support champions, and I think all champions in general that share the same sort of trait. If a champion has an ability that either gives a move speed buff to your allied champion or slows an enemy champion, now the percent of how much it will boost your champion or slow your enemy champion will vary based on how much AP you have. The more AP you have, the bigger the move speed buff you will give to your allied champions, and on the contrary, the more AP you have, the bigger the slow debuff will be when you cast it on an enemy champion. And of course, vice versa applies. For the less AP you have, the less you will offer for your allied team, and the less slow effects you'll have on the enemy champions. Alright guys, that is the end of this video. I hope you learned something new and got an idea of how the Season 4 changes will be looking like for the support players. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and or you found it informative. And also I'd appreciate it if you guys are able to follow me on my Facebook and or Twitter pages. The links in the description below. But as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you next time. Peace.